This is the Floridaville. Get to know the people behind the Florida names you know. I'm your host, Rosanna Catalano. On this episode, we get to know Senator Loranne Ausley, a state legislator newly elected to District 3. She has spent her career advocating on behalf of people in the Big Bend area. And we are recording remotely today. I'm in my home in Tallahassee, and Senator Ausley is speaking to us from her home, also in Tallahassee. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
Well, you represent District 3 in the Florida Senate. Can you share with us what cities you represent?
I don't think I could give you a list of cities because it's 11 counties, but it ranges. So Tallahassee, Quincy, Havana, all the way to Port St. Joe and Weehawken and Gulf County, Blountstown, Bristol, Alligator Point, St. George Island. You get the picture. And then on the east side, Monticello, Madison, Perry, White Springs, Jasper, Jennings in Hamilton County. So I actually took a tour on my bicycle and I got to see it all. And it's an unbelievably beautiful district.
It is, and it's very large geographically. So we have new leadership in the House and Senate for this year. What committees will you be serving on for the 2021 session? And tell us what types of issues will you deal with in each of these committees?
So I'm pretty excited about my committee assignments. I got 6 assignments. So 2 policy committees, agriculture and energy and environment. So ag and environment are 2 separate policy committees. And then 2 budget committees. So the budget, the appropriations on agriculture and environment. So that's one subcommittee. And then the other is the budget subcommittee on transportation, tourism, and economic development. And then the JAPC, which is the Joint Administrative Procedures Council committee. And then the final one is the Select Committee on Pandemic Preparedness and Response. So it's a full range of issues. And when I talk to school kids, I kind of tell them, your committees are kind of like classes, like you study up on the issues, and instead of a test, we have a vote. So it's kind of important to be prepared. But so I'm excited about being able to study up and really play a role in a number of different areas that are really important to the Senate District 3.
Yeah, that's quite a lot of committees you're on.
So go ahead.
No, go ahead.
And I was just going to, the agriculture issues are really important to the rural parts of this district. Energy and environment issues are important because, there's 8 first magnitude springs in Senate District 3, like 23 rivers, maybe 16 state parks, over 100 miles of coastline. So climate change and those sorts of issues are going to be real important. I'm excited to be over tourism and economic development because there's a lot of Hurricane Michael relief that's still needed on the western part of the district, and that all that comes through the Department of Economic Opportunity, as well as rural broadband. That's a big focus of mine. So, and I think we'll touch on everything in the Select Committee on the pandemic. So, my plate is definitely full.
That's a lot. So for our listeners unfamiliar with your story, can you take us back to the beginning and tell us where you grew up and what your family was like and is like?
So I'm been in Tallahassee all my life, and as my father and his 6 generations here in Tallahassee. So I went to Leon High School and really lived here when it was a kind of a sleepy little town, and some might still say that it is, but I'm excited about the interesting and diverse growth that I've seen in my community. So I grew up with a brother and sister here, and my parents were very involved in the community, still are. My dad is an attorney and still practicing in his 80s. And it's just been a community leader. His father was the mayor and actually served in the Florida Senate. So it's kind of exciting to carry on that legacy.
That's incredible. Now, you graduated from Randolph-Macon Women's College with a Bachelor of Arts degree, and then you went to law school, Washington and Lee. So you talked about your father and your grandfather. Was your decision to go to law school impacted by your family, specifically your dad?
I think that certainly, the family practice, and he practiced with his father, and I guess I always envisioned that I would do that. And my career sort of took a different turn. But yeah, I mean, I think that's it, and that that was in the late '80s, '90s, and it was still sort of, there weren't a lot of women lawyers at any law firm, and so it was a decision for me. Like, I don't know that I ever, I don't know if I guess the thing about having a law degree opened a lot of doors for me, even if I wasn't practicing law. I guess I knew that was the case.
So I always love to hear how successful people get their start. So can you share with us some of the positions you held early in your career?
Yeah, so right out of college, I actually worked for Bob Graham was the governor of Florida, and I went to work on his. He was running for the United States Senate, and so I went to work on that campaign, and it was a great experience. It was a statewide campaign. I was just out of college, but I got to spend my time like dri- driving around the state of Florida, and helping people, get organized for this campaign. And he was the governor, so it was kind of cool. And I went with him to Washington and worked in his Senate office before going to law school. And then I, spent a couple years practicing law in a large firm in Miami. But I sort of got the government and politics bug, and ended up going to work in the Clinton administration in Washington, and had, I think, two of the coolest jobs anyone could ever have in government. I started at the Department of Commerce, the U.S. Department of Commerce, in the Travel and Tourism Administration, and we put on a White House conference on tourism, which was, and we had individual White House conferences in every single state. So I had the opportunity to travel around the country, and went to Alaska and Hawaii, and visit and talked about the importance of tourism. And it all culminated in a big conference, and President Clinton and Vice President Gore and all the cabinet secretaries came, and I was the executive director of that conference, and it was really cool. And I moved from there to go work with Andrew Cuomo, who's now the governor of New York. So, and then at the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and Andrew was the assistant secretary over the community development. So we worked on empowerment zones, bringing businesses into inner cities, and then great. It was hard to believe, but it's not that hard to believe today, that there was a rash of church burnings across the country, racially motivated church burnings, and HUD was given the responsibility for managing a loan guarantee program for rebuilding places of worship. So Andrew put me in. It's hard to call him, at the time, Assistant Secretary Cuomo put me in charge of this program that was bringing together pastors and volunteers from around the country to help get places of worship rebuilt. And it was a really amazing experience.
What an incredible career you've had. And I know that you worked with Lieutenant Governor Buddy McKay as well. I think you were chief of staff. So you have really had a very interesting career in government. So you became an elected official in 2000 when you ran for state representative. What inspired you to make that first run?
You know, I I I really had just come off the gubernatorial campaign. Buddy McKay, my lieutenant governor, had run against Jeb Bush, and it was we were sort of a number of us, young Democrats here in Leon County, were looking around the room trying to figure out what does the next generation of leaders look like. And we literally were recruiting um, folks for this seat, and someone looked across the table and said, "Loranne, why don't you think about running?" And I really had never I always thought I would be behind this, started working for candidates, and I worked with agency heads, and sort of was the behind the scenes person. And I never had, and then I think this is something common to many women. We don't think about doing it ourselves. So I kind of thought about that for a bit and realized that it was an open seat. Marjorie Turnbull had decided not to seek reelection. And so I thought, well, you know what, I'm going to regret it if I don't take this jump. And so I did. I jumped in with both feet. I remember talking to my parents, and my dad had run for actually the state Senate in a very close and contested race in 1974 when I was 11 years old, and which may be, why I'm here today. But I remember him trying to talk me out of it because, it was a crowded field, and he, why do you want to do this? It's, yeah, I'm here. I am today, 20 years later, and have just, it's just been an honor of a lifetime to have served in the House, and I'm just excited about the opportunities in the Senate.
That's an incredible story, and I think you're right about women needing a little bit more of a nudge, to get into public office and seek it. So let's take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll learn more about your leadership work and your hobbies. At Rocket Ship Consultants, our mission is to take your organization to the next level. Our team develops strategic communication plans that help entrepreneurs, corporations, associations, and individuals reach new heights. Our consulting team is made up of attorneys with additional experience in journalism, public relations, politics, broadcasting, and advocacy. Let us help you take that dream you have for a podcast or video show and make it into a reality. We can create networking opportunities, educational forums, and interactive conferences to spread your message. Let our team provide you with fresh ideas and inspiration. Rocket Ship Consultants offers a variety of services, so check out our website at rocketshipconsultants.com. Take off with Rocket Ship Consultants and launch your organization with us. Welcome back. Our guest today is Senator Loranne Ausley, a Florida legislator representing several counties, in 11, I believe, in the panhandle of Florida, including where I live in Leon County. She's my legislator. So you served in our state legislature from 2000 to 2008. What did you focus on after leaving public office?
So I also ran statewide for chief financial officer in 2010. And that experience was another great experience. I think we often gain so much from what seemed to be losses at the time, and clearly it was a loss, but it was I got to see the state of Florida, every single corner of the state of Florida, much like I had done in a very different capacity for Bob Graham of many years earlier, but as a candidate. And met people in large cities and small, but I also realized after losing that race that there was not a lot of resources or a structure for candidates. I kind of thought, I'm running for statewide office, people are going to swoop in, and that was not the case. So I spent some time researching and seeing what was happening in other states, and came across a model in Colorado called Project New America, which was a research and messaging hub that really helped to transform the West. I mean, the Western states had gone from red to blue pretty recently, and some of it had been credited to the fact that they had gotten together and really tried to formulate messaging and policy that met people where they were. I mean, so I've worked on a similar program here in Florida, trying to figure out what is it, and how do we speak to Floridians in a way that we can connect with them, speak to their values, and not, as Democrats, we want to spout out a 5-point plan and get all the facts, and voters don't want to hear the facts. They want to hear what's in our hearts. And so I spent some time um, thinking about that and helping others try to formulate, try to articulate what we believe in a way that we can connect with people. So I spent some time doing some research and then working with candidates and working with folks, it was a great experience. I also spent a lot of time continuing my work here in the community with around Whole Child Leon, and I was the chair of the Florida Healthy Kids Corporation. So continued a lot in my volunteer work as well.
You have done a lot. So you may not remember, but the first time I interviewed you was back in 2000 when you had just become a Florida legislator. The Tallahassee women lawyers wanted an article on you and your success, and I volunteered to write it. You were so gracious to have me in your legislative office, and I was excited to learn. I did my research all about your accomplishments, and then I was blown away that on top of all your professional success, you were an accomplished athlete. Can you tell us about that? Because I'm still amazed.
Yeah, and it's not something I didn't like grow up, being a runner or anything, but I'm a triathlete and I have been for over 20 years now, and marathon runner, and it's something that is really like it is my outlet to be able to swim, bike, and run. And it's enough of a variety that I think I stay healthy because I don't run 2 days, but and I've got a great group of people that I do it with, and I travel to do races, and it's just something that's kept me going, I think.
So you have completed the Ironman 3 times, I think?
Three times, yes.
3 times. So for those of us, like myself, that only run when being chased by monsters, what do you have to do to finish an Ironman?
So an Ironman is a 2.4-mile swim. I mean, my first one was in the Gulf of Mexico. Others have been in rivers. Actually, and one was in the Chesapeake Bay. So 3 different open water swims, and a 112-mile bike ride, and then followed by a full marathon. So a 26.2-mile run, all together in one day.
So these take hours to complete.
Yeah, it's 12 and a half hours is my best time. And that's actually a pretty good time. And I'll never get there again, but 14, 15, 17 hours. It's definitely a grueling day. And there's a fourth discipline, which is nutrition. You have to make sure that you're eating, that your body can ingest the types of things that you can continue going, but that can fuel you for 12 to 16 hours.
So you talked about that this was a way for you to, I guess, an outlet for you, this athleticism. What also do you get from pushing your body to the max like that? Because an Ironman is an incredible physical fitness event.
Yeah, it's definitely a outlet for me mentally. The training. I mean, the training is to me as much of the journey as the actual, the event. I remember when training for my first. I did a little speech, a normal speaking routine with a group at Hartsfield Elementary, and they sort of followed my career. And I remember saying, I have to be prepared that I might not be able to finish. Like because so many things in a day like that are out of your control. The weather, you might have a bike malfunction, and you have to be mentally prepared that you're going to be okay with all of this year of training and the base of your whole life that you might not finish. And the kids couldn't understand that. Like, you can't, you'd be a loser if you did that. And I had to explain to them, it's something way beyond the actual Ironman. It's getting there, and it's being healthy, and having a good group of people to log those hundreds of miles that have to be logged to get you to the starting line, much less to the finish line.
And a real appreciation for the journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
You returned to the Florida legislature in 2016 as a representative and was just elected to the Senate this year. What prompted you to return to the legislature?
So, I my life's work and passion has been around our children, and we have so much research today that tells us how important the early years of life are. Yet we still, spend such a fraction of our state and national resources on those early years of life. And so I spent time when I was out of the legislature trying to get people to focus and care about these issues through some community efforts, and realized it's much easier to push policy for me from inside. And I felt like we needed to recruit a new generation of leaders, and it was easier to recruit if I was willing to go back and do it myself. It's a lot easier to recruit from within than it is to say, "Hey, I did that. You should do it too." So I the seat came open again, and I decided that it was that my it was I still had work to be done, and so it was it came back as a freshman and still in the minority, and it's funny because it was like being a freshman all over again. And I talked earlier about when you talk to kids about the legislature being a little bit about like school with its term limits. We're freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors, and it's really like that. Even if you've had 8 years, you still go back to the bottom of the totem pole.
So you've successfully run for various elected positions that we've talked about and have been very involved behind the scenes in motivating and supporting others to run for public office, especially women. Why do you think it's important for people to serve?
Well, we have a citizen legislature in Florida, and that we have that for a reason. We need to have people with all types of backgrounds and all life experiences to be able to successfully govern a state of over 20 million people, that has great challenges. And to have people that are teachers and lawyers and doctors and all walks of life, it's really, really important. And people who love who believe in public service and believe that's what we're doing this for, and people who truly love the state of Florida. And I think it's really important that we have all of those qualities, to get Florida to keep us where we are, and to make sure that we leave a better Florida for the next generation.
I know you work on a lot of boards. Can you tell us about some of your board work?
Yes, so I'm really excited about the current work that I'm doing with the South City Foundation. South City is a pretty challenged neighborhood, with like a mile south of the capital, with some pretty grim statistics. And we have we have been selected by Purpose Built Communities, which is a Atlanta-based nonprofit that focuses on place-based revitalization. It is citizen-led, so we're working directly with the neighbors that live in this one census tract. But we're you know very strategically focused on three areas: mixed income housing, a cradle to career A plus education pipeline, starting with infancy all the way through college and work, and then a health and wellness strategy. And the key piece of this is a community quarterback organization that drives all of this: the housing, the education, and the healthcare piece. And so Representative Alexander and I chair that community quarterback organization, and we're just a little bit over a year into the work. But it's so exciting, and it's really exciting during the times that we are currently living, because Purpose Built has, over their 20 years of work, really focused on equity. And so all of this work is done through an equity lens. And where we are in our nation right now, it's just so important that we are focused on that, the racial equity issues, but from in the housing perspective, in the education perspective, and in the healthcare perspective.
So you've been an outspoken advocate, not only for these issues that you're talking about, but also for children, and your South City does focus on children. What inspired you to get involved in children's issues?
There's every possible noise. So when I worked with Lawton Chiles and Buddy McKay, Lawton was the governor when I worked, was chief of staff to Buddy McKay as lieutenant governor. Chiles was a real early adapter to this early learning issues. It was. I don't think we even really had the brain research at that point that told us how critical those years were. But he just instinctively knew that investment in those years was critical, and so I kind of followed along and paid attention to those issues, and then as the years unfolded, the research became so clear. And we still have a hard time convincing people that investment in childcare and early learning is anything more than babysitting. I mean, I remember having conversations with legislators in my early years of not that long ago, when they why are we spending money? We're just babysitting. And not having that recognition of how important those years are, and that investment in those early years can pay off so much in the long run. So it really was Lawton Chiles and his wife Rhea that gave me that foundation of how important it is.
What are you hoping to accomplish for the constituents in your district this year?
Well, it's a tough time. Everybody's working from home. We're still 10 months into a pandemic, and I think everything's going to look different on the other side of this, and so my answer to that is different than it would have been had we, if 10 months ago. I'm excited to be able to work on the select committee on the pandemic, because I think we need to address everything. First, the rollout of the vaccine, and ensure equity in that rollout. That communities that are most impacted by this pandemic and disease are not at the back of the line. And we need to focus on the broken unemployment system, and not just the technical piece of it, but the fact that we are the lowest. Our unemployment benefits are the lowest in the nation. We have this pandemic has uncovered fault lines that have existed in our safety net for too long, and I think it's time that we really look at that. Really investing in a early learning system, childcare, so that parents can go to work and feel comfortable that their children are being educated and well taken care of. And the core of it all is broadband. Being able to kids being able to be educated from home, parents being able to work from home. Being able to access healthcare from home, and once the pandemic is over, high-speed internet is still going to be important for every kid and every family. So I think really focusing on restoring our communities, and making sure that we're rebuilding in a way that reflects what we've been through.
We like to end our show with a little bit of fun by asking all of our guests the same 7 questions. What would people be surprised to know about you?
I love funnel cake.
Oh, I love funnel cake too.
Yeah. It's kind of gross, but it's really good.
I don't think it's so good with that powdered sugar. Oh, stretchy. Oh, so when you have guests in town, what is your favorite place? Where is your favorite place to take them?
Well, my first thing is I like to bring them here. We entertain here a lot, and on our back porch. But I love the St. Mark's, the lighthouse, and I take them to the Capitol. It's kind of cool.
What is the name of a book you recently read that you could not put down, or the name of a show you enjoyed binge watching?
Well, during COVID, I don't know if I could count the number of shows that I've enjoyed binge watching, but the Queen's Gambit was really good, and I have to say, Schitt's Creek is the best I'm just making my son start from the beginning and watching it over, and watching it from the beginning when you know the ending is amazing. Um, and Ted Lasso. I don't know if you know Ted Lasso. It's on, I think it's on the Apple channel. It's really good. It's really good. So those are the three that I can, but I could keep going.
I know I have seen those shows. I actually had another guest talk about The Queen's Gambit. We love Schitt's Creek. You, David, right?
Yeah,
So, but I haven't seen Ted Lasso, so I'm gonna have to check it out.
gotta
So,
check it out.
among your close family and friends, what are you best known for?
Um, Entertaining people on the back deck or the front porch.
If you have a nickname, who gave it to you?
Um, Aunt Lala. That's my nickname of all my nieces and nephews.
That's sweet. If you knew you could not fail, what would you attempt?
I I think it would making sure that every kid has the right start in life.
I think so often people forget that not everyone starts on the same starting block,
Right,
on the Monopoly board.
right.
What are the top 3 things you love about living in Florida?
So hard to name 3, but, um, I love the quirkiness of our state. I love the beauty of our state from from our springs to our rivers to our coastlines. And I love our part of the state, which has red clay hills and rolling hills. Um, so I don't know if that's the 3 type of things you're looking for, but that's what I got.
Well, Senator, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you.
Thank you so much.
Be sure to subscribe to our podcast on all your favorite podcast listening platforms. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter, and visit our website to see some extras regarding this episode. Our audio editor for this podcast episode is Joy Tootle with Rocket Ship Consultants. If you're interested in sponsoring our podcast or would like to suggest a future guest, please email us at feedback@thefloridaville.com. Thanks for tuning in.